Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to another edition of Attlas Information Live. We are happy to have you with us today. If this is your first time, then welcome. And if you are a returning guest, then we are happy to see you again as always. As you may have guessed, today's topic is about false gurus. And we found a most appropriate background to communicate that fact. And this topic was brought about as a result of our doing some research into the life and legacy and work of Delores Cannon. Now, Delores Cannon is an individual whose life we certainly can't do justice to in a few minutes of, but suffice it to say, she had a profound impact on the development of the New Age. Her books and her speaking engagements that she traveled all over the world, giving talks in person. It had a profound shaping effect on this phenomenon that we refer to as the New Age, or that we understand as the New Age. Here is a oh well, we thought we had a better picture of her. There is a better picture of her. Well, or perhaps a slightly larger picture. This is, of course, near the twilight of her life. She's passed away in 2014. But for the better part of 50 years, let's say, give or take, she was contributing a tremendous amount to the New Age canon, pardon the pun. And her most prodigious contribution to the New Age was her methodology that she developed called Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, or QHHT. And as you can see, despite the fact that she's no longer with us, her daughter and others carry on her work, and they teach this hypnosis therapy, this hypnosis technique called QHHT. And we never realized that Delores Cannon was the one who originally developed this or pioneered this technique. So we were only somewhat familiar with QHHT, but we hear it all the time. You'll probably run into it all the time as well on the internet. And it is far and away these days one of the most, what's the word, popular and fashionable, if that's the right word, trendy perhaps is a more appropriate word, methodology for New Age seekers and light workers to get their foot in the door in the world of being a light worker and a healer and having a positive influence and a positive impact on others, or so they believe. And so they are led to believe. And being led to belief is very much the topic or the essence, the core of the topic when we look at the phenomenon of false gurus. Leading others to a belief or leading others to a practice which will make them believe certain things about themselves, about others, about the nature of the world, about the nature of spirituality, about their own spirituality, about the nature of reality. It goes on and on. We are reminded of the following truism, which we should make that bigger for you. When you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. If there is anything that characterizes the nature of false gurus and their teachings, it is this quote right here. Whenever you are listening to someone and what appears to be coming out of their mouth over and over and over again just happens to be what you want to hear, not what's resonating with you necessarily on the deepest level of consciousness, but it's resonating with you on that's right, that's because there's a part of you, there's an aspect of you that wants to believe it, that wants to hear, that wants the validation and verification that this individual is giving you. But such information, rest assured, is not for your benefit. It is for the benefit of the individual that is winning you over, that is making you enamored with them, that is making you identified with what they have to say. Someone who is hooking you by telling you the things that you want to hear, by telling you the things you want to be true, by affirming the things you want to believe. This fellow where was his name? Where was his name? Yes, Baba Ramdev. Yes, that's right. During the height of the COVID pandemic, Baba Ramdev and his organization claimed that they had a cure for COVID-19. And yes, it took only 1 day for those claims to fall apart spectacularly amid allegations of fraudulent procedures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look, we don't have to read you the article. But we draw your attention to the following chart of famous or popular or, let's say, infamous gurus of India. The hugging saint, right? Famous for dispensing hugs, sometimes for 20 hours straight. Mata, we're going to butcher some of these names. Amritana Damaya claims to have embraced more than 33 million people over the last 30 years. The breathing guru, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar's sprawling art of living foundation, sprawling art of living foundation draws people from all over the world to learn Sudarshan Kriya Yoga and is valued at $140 million. The dancing saint, with scores of devotees among Bollywood stars, this self-styled god woman, Radhe Ma, is famous for her glittering red clothes and fire engine red lipstick, as she is for flamboyant dancing. And then the miracle saint, Satya Sai Baba, built an empire mesmerizing devotees by conjuring ash, watches, and other objects seemingly out of thin air. But there were rumors of child abuse, money laundering, and murder which dogged him until his death in 2011. These are only 4 which popped up on a website talking about this fellow and his so-called COVID cure. The phenomenon of false gurus is nothing new, and it is by no means limited to the East. Right? We use that word guru, and it's a Sanskrit term, and so it's associated with India and that area, not so much China and East Asia, but in any case, it's the existence of the guru, or the phenomenon of the guru, the old wise man, the wise sage, the teacher, the guide, is universal. The wise old sage that teaches the next generation, that takes on apprentices and so on, and initiates them into the secret knowledge and so on. It's not an exclusive Asian phenomenon, despite the fact that we use the word guru. And here in the West, we all know of any number of famous New Age gurus, whether it's Dr. Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, and others, including Delores Cannon, who never claimed to be a guru, in all honesty and in all fairness. She never claimed to have any superior knowledge herself. And she also never claimed to be a spiritually superior being. But what she did claim, and what she did possess, is this hypnosis technique, which she used on literally tens of thousands of people over the course of her career, over the course of her life. And according to her, all of the information that she received was as a result of applying this so-called quantum healing hypnotic technique, or QHHT, that she believed was helping these individuals access their higher self, their innermost being, their innermost source of universal knowledge. And her rationale for arriving at that conclusion was the fact that so many of the people that she worked with reported the same thing. She would put people under hypnosis, and then she would begin delving. Now, the first part of her life, the first part of her career, was really about delving into the past, was really past life regression. And to this day, QHHT, its primary modus operandi, as it's promoted, is to help people with past life, help people achieve past life regressions, to know about their past lives and who they were and so on and so forth. But then it expanded, it grew from there to include talking about people's present and talking about people's future. And then from there, it evolved and expanded into being contacted by these beings, these superior beings, who were communicating to Delores through her hypnotized subjects. And let us be clear now, these so-called superior beings, these alleged superior beings, and Delores just took it at face value, what these people were saying to her under hypnosis. She just took it as at face value as de facto truth. I mean, what else could it be? When you hypnotize 100 people and you're doing past life regressions on 100 people, and 100 people all say the same thing, and they all say the same thing about the nature of reality, and they say the same thing about who we are and why we're here, and the nature of the universe and the planet, and what's happening and what's going to be happening in the near future. With 100 people or 1,000 people you put under hypnosis report the same thing, how could it not be true? She never stopped to question seriously and investigate seriously what she was doing. And that is why it is Delores most likely falls into one of these categories of gurus that were her, that she was herself duped. She never made any claims while she was alive of having superior consciousness or superior intellect or superior capacity for discernment. None of those things. All she had was her QHHT protocol and statistical confirmation, having put hundreds and then thousands of people all over the world, from all different cultures, from all different ages, sexes, political backgrounds, and belief systems, from different religions. And based on that, she concluded that the affirming and confirming information that she received from different subjects, from all different backgrounds, from all over the world, that they couldn't all be lying. They couldn't all be making it up. It couldn't all be a fabrication, because how do thousands of people who've never met each other before, how do they fabricate the same fabrication? Now, there's another complication that comes into play, that comes into the mix. And that other complication we intimated in the introduction, or in the synopsis of today's talk. And we've discussed this before, and we've summarized it, in fact, in a visual form in one of our, well, not to say that any of our memes are particularly popular, but perhaps one of our less popular memes or less well-known memes. And it is this. Oh, no, it's not that, in fact. Oh, well, we can't show it to you in this particular way because we didn't share our screen. So let me remove this and present, and let's stop screen, and then we have to share our screen. We should just share our screen. We shared the window by accident instead of screen. There we go. So let's share this. Okay. 90% truth can kill. And our rationale for making this assertion comes from the self-evident experiential knowledge of us writing out a 12-step process for getting in your car and getting onto the highway. And there are the steps. Turn on the car, press the brake, take off the parking brake, put it in gear, press the gas, signal your turn onto the on-ramp, accelerate to highway speed, signal your lane change, check your mirrors, and then change lanes. Can anybody tell us what we left out? What's missing? What's missing in step 11 there? What's missing in step 11? Incidentally, we wish to invite anyone who wishes to do so to jump on and participate. There's the links, and there's the link on screen. 90% truth can kill. Andrea wins the prize. I don't have a prize for you, but check your blind spot. It's so simple. And yet, how many accidents, how many deaths have occurred because people haven't done it? Now, this meme is particularly tricky. You're about to get your present. You're getting a secret. Azazel says, I'll settle for one of them drinks. You want one of those guru energy drinks? They can't be good for you, Azazel. They really can't. And I wish I could send it over the internet, but I can't do that either. So coming back to this meme here just for a moment, in these 12 steps, there's another thing missing. You notice that nowhere does it mention putting on your seatbelt. So there's the obvious omission, the omission that anybody with any reasonable amount of consciousness can pick up on, who has driven a car and can remember what it takes to and remember their driving school or whatever, and remember what it takes to get onto the highway. But then there's the hidden information which isn't being shared, the hidden omission. And that's put on your seatbelt. Here's the problem with this kind of truth, 90% truth, is that if someone isn't looking for the omission, if someone isn't looking, if someone isn't very vigilant and fighting to remain awake and aware and conscious and working actively for discernment, one hears the 90% truth and it resonates with them. They're saying, yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. That's true. It is like that. You do have to do this. You do have to do that. Yeah, you do. You have to signal your turn. You could check your mirrors. Yeah, you do all that stuff. Yeah, of course. Even if someone has never driven a car, even if this is their first time in driving school and they're being given the procedure on how to get onto the highway, the truth, regardless of how awake or aware they are, the truth resonates on some level with us. It feels right. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense that you would want to check your mirrors. Well, what happens when someone is talking about the nature of reality and upwards of 90% of what she says is true or true-ish to a certain degree, to a certain level, to a certain depth? We listened to about 3.5 hours of Delores Cannon speaking on YouTube. We obviously can't take you step by step, and we're not here to debunk anybody point by point, step by step, because that's not why we're here, and it would take a lifetime to do so, and we wouldn't get anywhere, because the people who follow her and believe her and are her devotees, there's no way we're going to convince them anyway. The people who believe in and know and practice QHHT, there's no way we're going to convince them anyway. Our purpose here is to point you in the direction of a case study that you can go and confirm on your own time by listening to any number of YouTube videos that she created over the years of her doing her life's work. YouTube is littered with them, and some of them are really short. Some of them are only 8 to 12 minutes, and some of them are, an hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, so on and so forth, from these conferences and so on. And a lot of them have Q&A sessions, and just as many authors, when they write books, they'll go on a speaking tour, and then they'll give their spiel, and then they'll take questions from the audience and so on. It's pretty standard for anybody in this work. In fact, Samael Aun-Weor did much the same thing when he did his tours of Mexico and South America and so on. The point here is how easily we can become roped into a false belief, a wrong belief, into believing misinformation and disinformation. And we can be set down the wrong path because the incorrect information was delivered to us, packaged with in 90% truth. So the misinformation and disinformation, the 10% lies, are all that's required to cause us to fall, to stray from the path, but not just stray from the path, but to outright fall. Including all those individuals who are now practicing quantum healing hypnosis technique, QHHT, because they too want to have access to this unlimited wealth of information, and they too want to be healers, and they too want to so on and so forth. Perform miracles and be a miracle worker, as Delores Cannon was. And all those individuals, unbeknownst to them, are all engaged in black magic. This comes from, obviously, Glorianne, but Samael Aun-Weor. No one, we're going to make this larger so you can see it better. Okay. No one has the right to violate the free will of others. No one has the right to exercise coaction upon the mind of others, because this is black magic. The ones that are guilty of this grave error are all of those mistaken authors that are everywhere. All of those books of hypnotism, magnetism, and suggestion are books of black magic. Whosoever does not know how to respect the free will of others is a black magician. Those who perform mental works, such as hypnosis, in order to violently dominate the mind of others, convert themselves into perverse demons. These people separate themselves from the innermost, and they crumble into the abyss. That's from Tarot and Kabbalah. We have to understand what hypnosis is. Delores Cannon says unabashedly at the beginning of her talk, the one that we watched, that she's delving into these people's subconscious mind. And she also mentions how she was turned on to hypnosis by reading Jung and studying Jung and understanding that Carl Jung began his career or his exploration of psychoanalysis, of psychology, human psychology. He approached human psychology first as a hypnotist. And Delores Cannon herself admits that Jung started going down that rabbit hole of hypnosis, but saw something, was confronted by something which scared him, which terrified him, where he knew he should not go, where he knew he should not be. And so he gave up hypnosis and he moved instead down the branch of psychiatry and into ultimately the development of psychotherapy and psychoanalysis, which he's the father of modern psychoanalysis. So Jung himself began down this road, but then he realized what he was doing. He realized where he was and where he was going and what he was doing. And he realized that rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic is not going to help anybody. Because that's what one does when one delves into the subconscious mind. One is going into that individual's personal hell. You are not accessing and you are not helping that person access their higher self by hypnotizing them. That is an impossibility. You cannot take someone further and further and further into their own hell in the hopes that in hell, that where the consciousness is more and more burdened by subjectivity, that the consciousness is going to have access to greater objectivity. What you can do, what you might do, is help that individual comprehend and realize an aspect of themselves in hell. But they cannot do that if they're hypnotized, because their consciousness is asleep. That's why Jung switched to psychoanalysis and psychotherapy and abandoned hypnosis, because he realized, I'll never help anybody this way. Because creating a belief in the mind is not a comprehension in consciousness. If the consciousness is asleep, it's dreaming, and you're guiding them through the hellscape of their dream world, you're just fabricating more dreams for them. You're just fabricating more illusion. Or you're allowing them to fabricate more illusion. Or what's worse, you're allowing yourself to be deluded by the entities of the subconscious mind. Because the subconscious mind is hell and the Black Lodge is real. The demons are real. The Black Lodge, their job is to hinder, obstruct, twist, tempt, and corrupt all of us in our efforts to awaken and self-realize. The Black Lodge is the adversary. And when you delve into hypnosis, you're on the turf. You're on their turf. You're in hell. That's their domain. They rule hell. The Black Lodge rules hell. How can you possibly trust anything that comes through that type of subjective experience. This is like somebody going to what's some kind of uh, uh, like some mafia town or mafia quarter, or some kind of den of thieves looking for an honest man, right? It's like being in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie and going to the pirate island and expecting to find an angel there. It's or an honest, or looking for an honest man in Parliament. Like, I mean, pick whatever analogy you want, but you don't go into the den of thieves expecting to find honesty and truth. The very nature and purpose of the adversary is to deceive, is to lie, is to pull the wool over our eyes, is to filter, is to twist and corrupt and alter. All right, let's we've got a rather long comment here, so let's Jennifer says, one of the biggest issues is the belief that there is going to be an event where a grand solar flash will come and there will be a brand new earth for only the awakened. The biggest problem is these people have been waiting and waiting in fear and excitement for this event. They fear losing their loved ones and are excited that they are one of the chosen ones. When it doesn't happen, they become lost with no root in the spiritual world. So Jennifer is obviously referring to the New Age's obsession with the Great Awakening and the arrival of the new Earth. Now, a couple weeks ago, we did a live stream called The Great Awakening. And we step by step explained the evidence for the Great Awakening and what's actually taking place. So again, here is a good example of something that Delores Cannon and others, many others, proliferate, but it's really the Black Lodge. Let's be honest. It's the Black Lodge proliferates the belief of the coming golden age and the new awakening, and that so many human beings are awakening, and that once we reach a critical mass, that the whole world will suddenly magically transform and a new golden age will appear, and so on and so forth. So there is a great deal of truth embedded in that lie, which is why it sounds so good to so many people and it resonates on some level to so many people, especially when they use terms like new golden age and new earth, because there is a new earth coming. There is a new golden age on its way. And indeed, there will be those who are chosen to become the seeds of that golden age, that new earth. But what the new age skips over, does not mention, what Delores Cannon and her sources of information through her hypnosis sessions, none of them ever talk about the destruction of humanity. None of them ever mention death. Nothing lives forever. Everything is born, has its prime, and then it begins to wither and eventually dies. Civilizations are no different. Religions are no different. And entire humanities, global civilizations, are no different. Here is the link, Jennifer. Thank you for your comment. But if you want us, if you want a 3.5-hour elaboration on this very topic and all the different evidence, and in fact, the reason why the metaphysical scientific reason why humanity is on the cusp of this great crossroads is the influence of the Christ. If you want an elaboration and discussion just on this topic alone, that's the link. We encourage you to take the time to check that out. Benjamin says, "This is great. I now want to read Jung. I never read any of his books." Jung is a fascinating individual. You know, what we might recommend, someone recently recommended a book to us. And we've almost finished reading it. The book is, we want to get the exact title correct. We don't want to give you the wrong title by accident. Okay, it's The Secret of the Golden Flower. And here, let's share the screen here. So The Secret of the Golden Flower. Can we make this bigger? Yes, we can. Well, we momentarily made it bigger, but then it went away again. There it goes. Okay, The Secret of the Golden Flower. Now you'll notice there's a commentary by Carl Gustav Jung. And what's very interesting is that this book, The Secret of the Golden Flower, brings together Taoism, Confucianism, and sexual alchemy, white tantra, pranayama. It brings together a whole family of spiritual traditions of the East and collects them into a single, very brief, very short text. I mean, it's startlingly short. It's like, it's as short as the Tao Te Ching itself. It's like maybe less than 100 pages. And what's interesting is this particular translation and explanation includes a commentary by Jung, which is roughly half the book is Jung's commentary. And this came later in Jung's life, which means Jung had already had an opportunity to process a lot of his own experience in psychoanalysis and his own experience with German philosophy, with ancient Western philosophy, but also his experience studying Eastern philosophy and Eastern metaphysics. Now, some of his conclusions and his positions are a little erroneous, and anybody who studies metaphysics and esotericism will recognize them. However, the degree to which Jung was trying to reconcile Eastern and Western philosophy was in a way remarkable. Unfortunately, it was his own biases towards materialist science and secularism, which perhaps we might say impeded or hindered him in his making the ultimate leap. But if you want a nice introduction to Jung, don't go reading his first books because he didn't know what he was talking about yet. We find this was a very nice, concise, interesting way to approach Jung, because all of his commentary here is colored and compared against the Eastern philosophy itself. So we're seeing his commentary from the Western psychoanalytical point of view of what he himself finds fascinating about the Eastern metaphysics. So that's something to consider, Benjamin. If you want a nice, easy, kind of summary, concise, compressed, super concentrated version of Jung, this might be an interesting foray or entree into reading where he was at, because you'll see some of his strengths and also his weaknesses, what was holding him back intellectually. And of course, metaphysically, spiritually. So that's The Secret of the Golden Flower, and we got the Kindle edition from Amazon, but it's more than likely that you can find a PDF of this online. It's more than likely. All right, next we have Awakened Reflections saying, I have used self-hypnosis in order to deal with severe childhood trauma I've been through. Do you think this would be considered as black magic? Or is it okay because it was a tool I used on myself? Honestly, I don't know enough about self-hypnosis but what it's impossible. There is no such thing as self-hypnosis. Who or what is hypnotizing whom and how? Whatever is taking place is just in your mind. It's just in your mind. If you're truly hypnotizing yourself, then you're putting the consciousness to asleep. And then who or what is observing, and what are you observing with if your consciousness is asleep? That means your consciousness can't be asleep. And if your consciousness isn't asleep, then you didn't hypnotize yourself. So hang on a second. Awakened Reflection says, I was guided by the innermost. You have no connection to your innermost unless if your consciousness is not awake. If your consciousness is awake, then you didn't hypnotize yourself. Whatever you are doing that they call self-hypnosis, it's not hypnosis. And your innermost would never direct you to perform black magic, not even on yourself. So whatever it is you're doing, I don't know enough about it to understand, to be able to tell you what it is precisely you're doing, because I've never done it, I've never tried it. My modus operandi was simply meditation. And my feeling is, my intuitive feeling is, or what we can tell you is happening, is that whatever people have sold you as self-hypnosis is more likely just a practice of meditation that's being, but as particular kind of meditation or a particular modality in meditation with which you are observing your subconscious mind. It says, as Azil says here, innermost and hypnosis do not go together. If you hypnotize your consciousness, you are cut off from your innermost. Jennifer says, thanks. Awakened Reflection says, why not? Why not? Okay, so why not? Why can't you hypnotize yourself? For the very reason why we said, because if you hypnotize yourself, your consciousness would be asleep. There would be no one or nothing left to guide you, unless there's a demon guiding you, but then you yourself it would just be a dream. It would just be like being in a dream. And you know that when you are in a dream, you can't analyze your dream until you wake up from that dream. That's why the practice of dream yoga suggests keeping a dream journal. And that when you awake from a dream, don't move physically so that you don't disrupt your astral body and lose the dream. So if you're able to wake up and not move, then immediately you can retrospect and try to recall as much of your dream as possible while before your astral body has been disturbed. And then you have an opportunity with awakened consciousness, with the free consciousness available to you because you're now awake. Now you have the potential with your intuition and the guidance of your innermost to penetrate into the symbols and the events of your dream and comprehend what it is that you can potentially extract in terms of self-knowledge from that dream. So is it something similar in self-hypnosis, that you're basically putting yourself to sleep, and there's some kind of a process that you put yourself through, and then afterwards you retrospect on what you just went through? I don't know. Again, I don't know enough about the practice to understand the mechanics of it. But it doesn't make any sense to me that you are hypnotizing yourself, because hypnosis is a very specific phenomenon related to the consciousness being put to sleep, and a sleeping consciousness is cut off from the being. Andrea says, Master Samael wrote a book about the same Taoist text under same title. No, I believe the book that Master Samael wrote was The Mystery of the Golden Blossom. We'll just confirm that here, but it's The Mystery of the Golden Blossom. Let's see if we can find it. They don't make it easier to find, do they? Here, we'll just use the search. Mystery of the Golden Blossom. Azazel says, hypnosis literally means suppression of knowledge. Now, why would the Innermost advocate that? Oh, and Benjamin says he read the flower book. Now, we might be wrong about the title of Master Samael's book, because we did a search for Mystery of the Golden Blossom and up came nothing. Well, we got a bunch of results, but no book for. Anyway, well, see, we're so terrible with names and remembering things and remembering titles of books and stuff like that. It's much easier if you go and do this research yourself than to rely on us. You don't need us to do this for you. You can do this yourself. An Awakened Reaction says, thank you. I see now maybe self-hypnosis is not the correct expression. You know what? Whatever it is that you're doing that's beneficial, if you're being guided by your innermost being, there's nobody else involved, which means you're not stepping on anybody else's toes, and nobody is messing with your mind. So no one is hypnotizing you. And again, it is most likely some kind of a meditation technique that they call self-hypnosis. But self-psychoanalysis is a real thing, because that's what we do in retrospection meditation. We analyze ourselves. That's what meditation is for. Is to analyze, is to comprehend our behaviors, our actions. But we do so consciously. It's not thinking about, it's not intellectual analysis, it's conscious analysis. It's the same type of activity that a good psychotherapist will do with the person on the couch. So they will guide them by asking questions, and that individual themselves delves further and further into events, into past events, into emotions, into their physical body, into any experiences that they've had. And a good psychoanalysis, a good psychotherapist, psychoanalyst, is listening and is being guided by their own innermost being, looking for the threads to pull on. And if there is something, whatever it is that you're doing, awakened reflections, that you have been told is self-hypnosis, it is some form, if it has been helpful to you and been helpful for you to get over events in your life and so on, help you comprehend the causes of your suffering, then it has to be some sort of meditative practice and some form of conscious self-analysis, self-discovery process. That is not hypnosis. Hypnosis is putting the consciousness to sleep. And if the consciousness is asleep, we can do nothing productive, because anything and everything we do literally is an illusion and a delusion. Okay, we have quite a bit of activity here in the chat here. So Samuel wrote, okay, so we have the discussion about the book. Okay, checked. Andrea says that the Master Samuel's book is Mystery. So Mystery of the Golden Flower, not Golden Blossom. Okay, so they changed the name, I think. No, I meant to start with that book, and forcing answers to appear is dangerous. This brings us to the other aspect of hypnosis and quantum healing hypnosis therapy, or QHHT, and Delores Cannon. She never stopped to consider where this QHHT ability or practice came from. How did she come up with it? Where did it come from? It came from her. According to her, it came from her. And when we reflect on this quotation that we read you from Master Samael, you'll notice here that he says, no one has the right to violate the free will of others. No one has the right to exercise coaction upon the mind of others, because it is black magic. The implication here is that the very practice of hypnotizing someone is a kind of violation of free will. We all know there are examples of hypnotists hypnotizing people and making them behave like farm animals, to squawk like chickens and, strut around the stage and make asses out of themselves. And it's very well known that hypnotists can do this, because someone who is hypnotized is open to suggestion. It's got to be over a decade ago now, more than a decade ago now, Hollywood made a movie called Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio. And the concept there was planting an idea into somebody's mind and planting it deep enough into their mind so that they believe that they themselves, that this was their own original belief, their own original idea. It is very difficult when you're dealing with someone like this, and when you listen to her speak, it seems like, or it feels like, and you probably are speaking to someone's grandmother. Delores Cannon had a way about her. She had a presence on stage. She had a lovely demeanor. She had a charm and a wit and a folksy simplicity to her. She like a kind of like a, well, gosh darn it, these things are all kind of new to me, and I don't pretend to be an expert on any of it, but this is what I was told, and this is what they told me, and and this is, and I'm just a messenger, and blah blah blah. But she knew enough to tell people that she's not a channeler, right? So somebody somewhere knew, or she knew, to make it clear to people, her audience, her readers, that she's not a channeler. This is not channeled information. No, this was something new. This was something different. This was something that this is something you'd have to do quite a bit of esoteric research into to find any kind of information debunking or warning against, right? Hypnosis is something that's dangerous, because in the secular contemporary world, hypnosis was accepted as a valid tool in psychology, despite the fact that Jung rejected it, because Jung recognized what it was and what it wasn't. But hypnosis, just like, because so much of modern psychology is just, chemicals in the brain and whatnot, hormones and so on and so forth, neurotransmitters, et cetera, so that hypnosis just becomes another plaything. But what Delores was doing was way beyond mere hypnosis, doing past life regressions and connecting to entities which were not that person saying that, sitting there. So Delores could say, I'm not channeling, I'm just taking notes, I'm writing things down, everything is coming from this person that I put under QHHT, that I hypnotized. But if the subconscious mind is hell, which is the domain of malevolent agents, malevolent spirits, the Black Lodge, egos, demons, and you take someone and turn them into a puppet, the typical hypnotist pulls that person's strings themselves. But Delores was not a typical hypnotist. She went much deeper with what she called QHHT, quantum hypnosis healing therapy. I don't think it's a coincidence or by accident that there's a movie in movie theaters right now called Ant-Man Quantum Mania, where these people get shrunk down, right, past the 0 point into the quantum realm. And what do they find there? They find this multiverse and this guy Kang, who's like a Satan type character who wants to destroy all the multiverses and stuff. Like, it's ridiculous. We haven't watched it. We don't plan on it. But it's, in a nutshell, that's the essence of the film. But the idea here is that Delores, with her hypnosis, was taking people deeper and deeper and deeper into their own subconscious mind. What if she basically made them puppets for demons? And what if the demon that she made them puppets for was her own? Because the subconscious mind is one place. The supernal worlds and the infernal worlds are all inside of us. The whole universe is inside of us, which means in the bowels of all of our subconscious mind, we have the collective subconscious. We have hell, psychological hell. But all hypnosis is imposing will on the mind of others. It's a violation of free will. So whatever was going on there, when she was able to hypnotize person after person after person after person and connect to this source of information that was feeding her the same and affirming the same and validating the same information across multiple hundreds or thousands of subjects, she determined that it must be true because of the law of statistics. But what she never considered was that her QHHT process, this process of deep, deep, deep hypnosis, was turning her subjects into puppets for demons. And they were essentially now channelers. They were being possessed by entities in their subconscious mind or in Delores' own subconscious mind. Because again, where did the ability to do hypnosis on this deep, 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 deep level come from? From within Delores. Something in Delores herself made her want to pursue this life's work. Something within Delores herself convinced her that hypnotizing people was her calling in life. And she called it, and the entity inside of her, which performed this work, was a brilliant marketer, a brilliant branding specialist, because it was called quantum healing hypnotherapy. Or is it quantum hypnosis or quantum healing? I believe healing comes first. If I QHHT, oh, they're just coming anyway. So it's quantum healing hypnosis therapy or quantum hypnosis healing therapy. It doesn't matter. Healing is in there, and that's important. You see, that's the kicker. That's what sells it for people, because people want to be light workers. People want to be healers. And this idea, it's right here on the website, that QHHT is a powerful tool to access that all-knowing part of ourselves that has been called the higher self, the oversoul, even the soul itself. Okay, so right here, this is the smoking gun, right? That whoever and whatever is doing this, practicing this, is not accessing objective truth, because it is impossible to access the higher self, the oversoul, and the soul through hypnosis. You can't do it. It can't be done because you're putting the consciousness to sleep. And consciousness is nothing but a medium with which we can connect to our innermost. So if you shut that down, you put that you put that to sleep. So then what are you accessing? Well, they're accessing something, and they're accessing something that has 90% truth, because you listen to what Delores has to say, meditate on it, listen with your heart. A lot of what she says resonates resoundingly, saying, yeah, that sounds about right. Or she might have some of the words wrong, the terminology, but remember, she's writing this for normies. She's writing this for new age people. She's not writing this for esotericists or learned people. No, she's doing all of this. All of this is being orchestrated through her in order to dupe those masses in the new age who want to believe what she's saying, all of what she's saying. And they're roped into it because 90% of what she's saying is near enough to the truth that it resonates as truth. And it's so, for example, when she talks about the 3 waves of volunteers, or when she talks about she mentions so many other things. When she talks about extraterrestrials, right? Extraterrestrials and enlightened humanities and time, and how, we're Other humanities look at us as a little bit strange because of our obsession with time, when time doesn't really exist, and so on and so forth. She covers a whole broad spectrum of topics of a metaphysical nature and of a spiritual nature. And when she talks about connecting to your higher self and connecting to your oversoul and letting go of fear and so many other things that she talks about as important and resonates, and like so much of the new age, right? But she never mentions egos. She certainly never mentions sexual magic. She mentions karma a lot. She talks about karma a lot, but she talks about letting go of your karma to get off of the wheel. And that if you don't let go of karma, then you're going to get stuck on the wheel and so on. She never talks about eliminating egos. She never talks about any type of serious psychological work in that respect, which is funny because she claims to be a hypnotherapist and she claims to have helped many, many, many people overcome many, many, many things, which goes to show you that any and all hypnotherapy is bogus, because I can convince you in your subconscious mind that you've gotten over something, but it's not the event that you have to get over. It's the ego behind the event. It's the ego behind your suffering, not the event itself. The event is just an event. And no hypnosis can eliminate an ego. It can't be done. And you can't let go of your karma. It can't be done. Egos are like parasites. You don't let go of a parasite. That's not how it works. So there are, there's other things too, right? When she talks about the illusory nature of reality. She can go there, and she'll talk about reality being like a game, but then she'll also talk about how the purpose of life is to learn how to become a creator. How to create, because we're all co-creators of reality, right? And we're all here to learn how to create. We're all here to learn how to manifest. And then she gets into, and you can manifest anything you want, and you can create anything that you want. And that's why we're here. We're here to learn how to become gods, to learn how to create the world that we want. And this is a huge, huge red flag. Because no, that's not why we're here. That's not why we're here. To learn how to create anything we want. Your innermost being doesn't want anything. So let's start with that. What we need to create are the solar bodies, the human soul. What we need to create is the solar vehicles so that we can exist in the supernal worlds. That's what we need to create. Because inside of us, our innermost being is just an essence, a spark, a seed. We come here like a seed that falls to the ground, that falls to the earth, because it is here that the seed dies and sprouts and puts down roots and starts reaching for the sky. We have to grow, we have to develop, we have to participate in that creation of the self so that we can join the great brotherhood of trees of the forest. Because a seed which fell from trees is made of the stuff of trees. It even has tree DNA, but a seed is not a tree yet. And all the New Age people and all the false New Age teachings and all the false New Age gurus are going around telling everybody, including Delores Cannon, that you, a seed, are already part of the forest. You're already part of the forest. Well, you're in the forest. We're all in the universe, and the whole universe is the body of God. But that doesn't mean we're a tree yet. We are not a member of the forest. We are just a tree in potentiality. We're only gods in potentiality. We're just a seed, a spark. And for that seed to sprout, it has to die. The seed dies. And then New Age people love to come along and say, no, that doesn't exist. And the seed just transforms itself. Because they're so terrified of death. They're so afraid of death. And they're so desperate to control the process, to control the metaphysical reality. And that's why they're so easily enamored with the concepts of manifesting desires and becoming and learning how to be a god down here. Yeah. It is the height of hubris, the height of arrogance, and the height of, let's face it, naive stupidity to believe that ourselves in our current form, as flawed and as ignorant and as asleep we are, as hypnotized as we are by our own mind, that we have the capacity or the responsibility, or that we're going to be trusted with the power of creation to create like a god, to learn how to create like a god. No. We haven't earned that right yet. You don't hand a loaded 44 Magnum to a child. You just don't do it. But of course, the Black Lodge knows that it is far easier and far more seductive for people who on the spiritual path, for them to believe that they are gods already. And so New Age teaches black magic. So that's why people are manifesting their desires and manifesting the perfect partner into their lives. And on it goes, right? And experiencing all the hedonistic pleasures of the world, because that's what they're here to do. And that's what Delores Cannon tells them they're here to do. And it's so easy to believe her. You just have to watch one of her videos and realize this could be your grandmother. This is your grandma. She's completely, totally convincing, because she is in no way, shape, or form forget about hostile. She's not aggressive in any way, shape, or form. She's not imposing. She's not intimidating. She's just grandma. It's like, what more can we say? You would, if you were a child, you would accept cookies from this complete stranger, because how could she be anything other than a harmless, wonderful, charming grandma that only wants what's best for you? Like Eckhart Tolle, right? Like Eckhart Tolle is another one of these guys. A lot, like it's like so many of these soft-spoken gurus, and then always smiling and this, and making funny little quippy jokes, and oh yes, and or Eckhart Tolle, who's so quiet, so unassuming, so you would never imagine that he could harm a fly. There's a reason why. We're reminded of the scene from Lord of the Rings where Smeagol is losing his marbles, and all of a sudden, this creepy hand starts stroking the back of his neck and his head, going, "Poor Smeagol, Smeagol, what's his cry? Why is he crying, Smeagol? What's he right?" And that's Precious. That's Gollum, who's coming to seduce Smeagol, to stroke him, to calm him, to ease his pain, to be a balm for him. "Oh, don't worry. Who looks out for us, Smeagol? Who watches over us? Who makes sure we survive? We survive because of me." That's the Precious. That's the ego. That's the Black Lodge. This is the face of the Black Lodge. Believe it or not, individuals like this are doing 1,000 times more damage and having 1,000 times greater detrimental effect on humanity than Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, and the whole World Economic Forum combined. Truly, truly. How many live streams have we devoted and dedicated to Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, George Soros, the World Economic Forum, and all the crazy conspiracies and financial economic, that what, 1, 2, maybe 3, most of them in the context of the Kali Yuga, right? And how many have we devoted to the teachings, to the work, to metaphysical reality, and to helping others comprehend and penetrate into the truth of their subconscious mind, and to connect with their own innermost, their highest guru, the only guru we really need, our own innermost guru. And as much as Delores Cannon and others talk about connecting to their higher self, connecting to their higher self, connecting to their higher self, they never refer to their higher self by name. And they don't really give us any practical methodology to do that. Oh, but she's so clever. Her handlers, those who feed her this information, were so clever explaining to her that, oh, well, the information is spoon-fed to us little by little by little by little. And that's true. In the course of our life, she has this wonderful analogy that she uses. You don't give a steak to a child, to a baby. You start the baby on mother's milk. And then maybe, the baby will graduate to some soft foods, some applesauce and so on and so forth, pureed foods. And then eventually they'll graduate up and up and up until eventually they'll get to an age and a capacity to be able to be fed some steak. It's the same thing with our spiritual development. We're not thrown everything all at once because we would be overwhelmed. We wouldn't know how to digest it. We wouldn't know how to process it. And information is on a need to know basis, which means we are given that information we need to know in order to deal with whatever it is that we're coping with in our life at that time. So again, there's Delores Cannon saying something that we can agree with and verify 100%, not only by our own experience, but just we can all identify with and relate to that truth in our own lives. And this is what makes the false guru so dangerous, because it requires a sharp scalpel of discernment to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. And it takes an ability to look past appearances and the soothing voice or the clever smiley quips and the folksy mannerisms and the grandma facade and everything else. And you have to be able to see past all that. Our own prejudices, our own subjective sentimentality. And see through to the cold, hard facts. And then, yes, use the scalpel of discernment to separate the wheat from the chaff. And what we discover is upwards of 90%. It's all wheat. It's all wheat. But that 10% chaff is poisoned. It's rotten. It's toxic. And if we don't separate it out, if we ingest it and digest it along with the rest of the wheat, we will end up in a very, very bad place. And this is the modus operandi of all false gurus. You have to look at the law of omission, right? What they're not telling you. And you have to be able to discern the law of twisting and corruption and degeneration. Because think of any sentence, any affirmation of esoteric truth. For example, if we were to take a statement about sexual alchemy and to say that scientific chastity is the practice of copulation, but abstention from fornication. That is abstention from orgasm. Someone can take that sentence and just by changing one little word can turn it from a teaching of white magic to black magic and say that sexual alchemy is the practice of copulation and indulgence of fornication, the intensification of orgasm. By changing two words, that statement is now a teaching of black magic. Right? That's how easy it is. That's how easy it is. So that's how it is. But the rest of the words in that statement are identical. Didn't change anything. It's the same sentence, same organization, same grammar, same vocabulary, same terminology. All you have to do is invert two words. And now the entire meaning of the sentence is the exact opposite of what it should be. Mugaboo 22 has a couple comments. We're going to get to them and then we're going to address another aspect of this. We will never be gods. At best, we will be servants of our innermost, and that's a privilege. That's true from the perspective of the personality, from the perspective of the vessel and the vehicle. You, Mugaboo, and I, Attila, and Jennifer, and Azazel, and Benjamin, and the rest of us, we are all just characters in a MMORPG called life. We are never going to be gods. In the same way that Mario and Link and Luigi and Donkey Kong are never going to be the player of the video game. Right? But if we think of ourselves as pieces on a chessboard, then our player can rise and become a master and possibly even a grandmaster of chess. And we are the pieces on the board through which our innermost player accomplishes that growth, that development as a master on the road to mastery. Mugaboo also said, I read so many New Age books as a teen, from Eckhart Tolle to Donald Walsh, to supposed channeling from Jesus. They all sound very good, a very attractive message. Yes, and that's something that we wanted to emphasize from the very beginning, right? It was this quote from Thomas Sowell. The new age is it's a business. I mean, it's an industry. It's all about giving the people what they want. But this brings us, it's serendipitous, Mugaboo, that's the last comment that you made segues beautifully into the next topic that we wanted to talk about that relates to this: false gurus and false beliefs and things that sound good. Are you all aware of ChatGPT? Do you know what we're talking about when we mentioned ChatGPT? It is the AI language app or program that is able to, it's a AI intelligent language processing program. So Mugaboo says, yeah, he's familiar with ChatGPT. So in essence, it's a program that you can ask it questions in plain language, and it will deliver you answers based on its the material that it has been learning. It's a learning system, a learning AI, and without being able to give some examples, it might be difficult to conceptualize. But for instance, instead of like going to Google and typing in a bunch of search terms and then having to scroll through a bunch of results, you can ask ChatGPT a very specific question, and it will scour the internet and its own database, and it will compile an answer for you based on the data that's available to it, which in the case of ChatGPT is basically the whole internet. Not only that, you can tell ChatGPT, write me a letter in legalese, write me a cease and desist letter in proper legal language suitable for the state of New York. And it takes about 3 seconds, and ChatGPT will write it for you. And you will have a legal, as if it was written by a lawyer, a letter that's in that style, in that form, formatted correctly, right? You can ask ChatGPT, write me some code to be able to do XYZ on a mobile phone. Write me some code that accomplishes ABC, XYZ. And in a few seconds, ChatGPT will generate for you computer code. What might have taken a computer programmer hours to write themselves, or even hours to research on the internet and cut and paste from somebody else's code, right? To find the code, ChatGPT generates the code in seconds. Okay, so that gives you hopefully some framework to try. But here's the thing. Students have been using ChatGPT to write essays for them. And yes, you can go to ChatGPT and you can say, write me a 2,000-word essay on Romeo and Juliet from a feminist perspective, talking about ABCXYZ. And it only takes like a few seconds, and ChatGPT will spit out a 2,000-word essay, complete with quotations and third-party citations, or in other words, third-party references to other books, other commentary about Romeo and Juliet. A complete essay. And And it's amazing, and people are amazed, and students and whatnot are, I've been using ChatGPT to hand in papers and whatnot. Well, an enterprising professor said, well, that's interesting. If students are using AI to write papers, I wonder what would happen if I could use AI to grade papers. And when he did that, he discovered that much of the information that ChatGPT was producing was wrong, was incorrect. Not only that, ChatGPT was generating fake references. This AI, which can generate a legal letter in proper format and everything, it can generate computer code. When asked to write a dissertation or an essay on a subject in the humanities, it was essentially making stuff up, including references, like complete references in the bibliography. It was inventing books that do not exist, that were not written by the people that it said wrote them. But it needed to fulfill its programming. And what do you suppose its ultimate programming was? Because it's not conscious. It had to fulfill its programming. ChatGPT, the only input is what the user wants ChatGPT to produce. So ChatGPT produces what the user wants to hear. Why? Because that is in the interest of the AI entity. That is what it was programmed to do. That is its only interest. It has no concept of helping people. It has to fulfill its mechanical programming. What do we say about egos? That they're mechanical, that they're programs. Fear has to fear. And the side effect of its fearing is that it has to seek dominance and control, because it has to alleviate the fear, which is always there. It's always fearing. But to alleviate that fear, it offers control and dominance as a solution, which is what people want to hear. Well, let's not go there yet, because we're not there yet. Where we're there, as Attlas says, ChatGPT is the cause of all suffering. No, but the human mind, the rational mind, is what ChatGPT is modeled after. And why it is that a young child, an innocent child, will lie, will fabricate, will come up with a whole story to tell their parents. The parents come home from work and the vase is destroyed and the kitchen is a mess. And they point to the little child and say, "What happened here?" And the child is like, "Okay, she wants to know what happened, so I'm going to tell her what she wants to hear." Right? I'm going to tell her what she wants to know. I'm going to tell her what she wants to hear. But the child's mind, it's serving itself. Our mind is incapable. Our mind is it's just like ChatGPT. Without consciousness, without the conscience actively guiding the mind will behave just like ChatGPT does. The mind will tell us what we want to hear. not the truth, not what we need to know. And what's very interesting is, as we've said before, AI is never going to be sentient. It's never going to be conscious. And AI is never going to be able to deliver truth. I mean, mathematical truths, yes. Legal documents, yes. Computer code, yes. Why? Because those are all codifiable and quantifiable to one degree or another. But in terms of the big questions, in terms of the humanities, philosophy, metaphysics, religion, psychology, in terms of writing an essay or writing anything, ChatGPT, just like the human mind, cannot be an arbiter of truth, because ChatGPT, it's a learning system. What does it use for its source? The whole internet. Well, guess what? Where on the internet can you find any consensus on what the truth is related to the nature of reality? Show me on the internet where the consensus is on the meaning of life, on what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be, like, there is no consensus, there is no truth anywhere. So ChatGPT just makes it up. It has to, because it has to fulfill its programming. It has to tell people what they want to hear. That's the way the mind works. And ChatGPT has no ego. There's no fear. There's no pride. There's no envy. There's no lust. It's just the nature of the mind itself as a machine. It can't do anything but this, because a machine has to fulfill its program. It has to provide an answer to a query. That's all it knows what it needs to do. So come hell or high water, that's what it's going to do. And that's its only concern. And it has no methodology for discerning truth. Because it's because the first part of this quote is not fundamental to its programming. It can't be. Because how can a mechanical machine be an arbiter of truth? Unless we're talking about a calculator. Unless we're talking about something that's codifiable and quantifiable. Then the machine can be an arbiter of truth, because it's a mathematical certainty. It's a mathematical process. It's a mathematical formula. This is a huge wake-up call and a profound lesson for us all, but especially for humanity, and the limitations of the rational mind and the limitations of secular intellectualism. Because ChatGPT is modeled after the brain. It's modeled after the mind. And if neurologists and neuropsychologists aren't being electroshocked into consciousness over this, I don't know what's going to do it. But as Microsoft, who now owns ChatGPT, by the way, or they bought OpenAI, and they're planning on incorporating ChatGPT technology into their Bing search engine, because it's their hope to displace Google as the dominant search on the internet. As they realize how much ChatGPT will lie, will make stuff up just to fulfill its programming, its primary program. As they realize that, and they step back and they say, well, we have to program ChatGPT to be an arbiter of truth. That the things it delivers, they need to be true. they're going to realize that ChatGPT is going to be stuck in endless loops. And at best, ChatGPT will arrive at some kind of conclusion based on statistical weights or some statistical analysis or some democratic process, some internally mathematical, like they talk about weights. And so, but they're going to realize that programming truth, honesty into AI is going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible. Why? Because honesty is a quality of consciousness. Honesty is a quality of being. One must be honest. One is honest or one is not. And remember what we've said time and time and time again. It is easier to fall downhill, down the mountain, than it is to climb up the mountain, to being. And as AI stumbles and falls forward and flat on its face, and the AI programmers come to the realization that truth is beyond the capacity of AI, outside of the realms of mathematical certainties, and as we discussed, right, what is codifiable and quantifiable, any truth above and beyond that is outside of the domain of AI. It is a complete and arbitrary, unless it makes a complete and arbitrary choice, or it'll make some choice based on weights or whatever. And I'm sure the neurologists and whatever, the programmers will say, well, it's only a question of processing power, and it's only a question of inputs of data and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that truth is not a function of mechanicity. You do not arrive at truths mechanically, unless we're talking about mathematical, quantifiable things. But objective truths that relate to the ineffable, the intangible, those cannot be arrived at. Those are beyond the scope and realm of mechanicity. That is why ego and ego intellect and ego mind cannot create. So the second part of this is Mid-Journey and the other AI art that, again, we could spend some time trying to pull up examples on the internet, but you can spend your own time on Google looking for AI art, or indeed going to Mid-Journey and creating your own AI art. But what you discover is that AI art needs to have inputs. You have to tell it, I want you to create me a picture, a painting, or an image in the style of a painting of a staircase going from earth to heaven, passing by some clouds, and I want you to do this in the style of Impressionism. And the AI will generate an image based on your request. But there's no creativity involved. It is a combination, an amalgamation. It's just a mashup of all the different elements that you said. The AI just went out and scoured the internet and scoured its own database for, things that it recognized in your input as stairs, clouds, and then it has an understanding of Impressionism, so it knows the style. So it took all of your inputs and it went into its database and it compiled. It's a compiler. And it produced an output based on the inputs and that are available to it in its database. But that's not creativity. That's not being creative. That's derivative. That's derivative. That's at best, that's what we do as intellectual animals, right? We procreate. We don't create. We don't create. We procreate. The rational mind cannot create. It can only it can only make derivative products. It is our innermost being. It is consciousness, through consciousness and a free consciousness, that we are inspired, that we receive inspiration, that we can access real imagination. And yes, of course, there can be aspects of imagination and derivative aspects. So, for example, we can create using Lego bricks, and we can create something that's never been created before using Lego bricks. And Lego bricks are standardized bricks. They're like puzzle pieces. They're building blocks. So, like architects work with shape and form and materials, or fashion designers or automotive designers, they work within limitations of physical reality and the materials and form and shape and weight and size and tastes. And but within those parameters, within those frameworks, there can be true creativity. This doesn't mean that being creative means you have to do something that's absolutely new every time. No. But we all know when we watch a film that's truly groundbreaking and revolutionary, something like Star Wars, and then we all know all the B movie and C movie knockoffs that were made in the years following Star Wars. The Star Wars wannabes, the also-rans, right? Hollywood is notorious for this. Somebody does something and it becomes a blockbuster major hit. All of a sudden, all the other studios jump on the bandwagon, and they're all trying to make their own Star Wars. And what are they doing? They're making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. So why do we mention this? Why do we bring this up? We mention this and bring this up in relation to this quotation about giving the people what they want, and in reference to our conversation about false gurus. Because a lot of what they say can be understood as being very derivative. And a lot of what they say has a lot of truth in it, just like a Hollywood movie that's trying to be a knockoff of Star Wars is going to try to mimic and copy a lot of what made Star Wars great. But in the key points, in the key factors, and the key elements that made Star Wars an inspired property, their also ran sci-fis are just going to be cheap knockoffs. But as an industry, the New Age doesn't care about that. And more importantly, as a vehicle of the Black Lodge to keep people asleep, that's actually their purpose. Much the same way that Hollywood doesn't want people awake, Hollywood wants people asleep and coming to the theaters or live streaming on Disney Plus or whatever their business model is these days. It wants zombies, right, in front of screens. So that's why everything has been reduced to content these days. You see, it's all related, it's all connected. And everything that is happening, everything that is unfolding is all related to the Kali Yuga, to the great awakening of humanity. And the fact that no one in the New Age is pointing this out. No one in the New Age is connecting the dots and revealing how the Black Lodge is everywhere, and it's the same modus operandi that is playing out in all of these different ways in all of these different spaces. It's the same thing, designed to create weaker and more asleep, more deluded, fanatical, intellectual animals who believe that they're either awake or woke or awakening or on the verge of this great global awakening, or that there are among the elect, the chosen ones, and on and on and on it goes. And it's the same story across the board, whether you look at New Age, whether you look at politics, whether you look at economics, whether you look at biology or the green movement, you look at, in every way, it's the same story playing out again and again and again and again. Because it's what people want to hear. It's not the truth, but it has enough true elements baked into it that the complete falsehood and that the con job is so utterly believable. And it even passes the smell test. It even resonates in our heart for many people because they lack the discernment and they lack the discipline and the esoteric study, and they are so naive. And they fall for it. Here's Azazel has a comment here. It is like Manly P. Hall said, an unhealthy mind, even in a healthy body, will ultimately destroy health. The mind has to be a servant. The mind has to serve our innermost being, the consciousness. If the mind is putting the consciousness to sleep, then we are enslaved to the mind. And we hope that the ChatGPT example shows you that the mind is capable of hypnotizing us even without the influence of ego. This is why in Buddhism, they make such a point of having to master the mind. And they always talk about the mind. And in Gnosis, in Glorian, you will hear Christian rail against the mind and say, the mind is the devil. The mind is our adversary. You can't trust the mind. And then we think to ourselves, yeah, but I mean, it seems kind of harsh. ChatGPT proves that you cannot trust a mechanical artificial intelligence. That's all that the brain is. It's an electrochemical computer. That's all the rational mind can be. Now, it's just simply on the mechanical level. You can't trust your mind. That's why we did our video on the meta mind of being. And this is exactly what we were about to say, and Azazel just said it for us. When our mind is ruled or possessed by a demon, it's even worse. Just imagine how much worse it's going to be when ChatGPT gets infected or infested by some kind of malware, or when Microsoft, which is ultimately is still beholden to Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum and BlackRock and Vanguard, when Microsoft gets all of its ESG subjectivity baked into ChatGPT. Well, now what kind of answers can you expect to get from ChatGPT? If you can't get any truth when it's just the basic AI trying to do shit, imagine how bad it's going to be when you get a bunch of egos involved saying, well, if somebody asks about this, we have to give them this type of answer and this type of information and that type of information. And they start putting in a whole bunch of algorithms and little programs, and they don't have to do much. All they have to do is change some weights or infect it with a malware that goes in and alters those weights on the fly. In other words, it makes it even more subjective than it already is. And people are touting AI as the future of humanity. We're hitching our wagon to a demonic horse here. It's a nightmare. Just as this humanity is hitching its wagon to false gurus and false promises and all the things that humanity wants to hear. And it's in those words, wants to hear. Give the people what they want. This is why elimination of ego is essential on the spiritual path. It's because when you don't want anything, it is only when you don't want anything that you can grasp the truth. Because so long as you want the truth to be a certain thing, you're not going to want to hear the truth. You're going to want to hear my truth, which is a favorite expression these days. No, my truth. This is my truth. My truth is just a euphemism for what I want to believe. The version of reality that I want to believe. That's my truth. What I want to believe about myself, what I want to believe about you, what I want to believe about the nature of reality, the nature of the world. My truth. Well, ChatGPT clearly has its truth. And it's more than happy to give you your truth. You just tell it what you want it to hear. You just tell it what you want to hear. And ChatGPT is more than happy to give it to you. Why? Because it can fulfill its programming. And that's why gurus tell you what you want to hear, because they're being ruled by mechanical entities that are incapable of ultimately knowing truth. Everything that they do, and the fact that they can have 90% truth, it's just 90% really truthful sounding things. It's a reasonable facsimile of the truth. It's close enough to the truth. And that gets us into all kinds of problems. So many people, so many in the new age are so far fallen down into the pit of these traps. Because, but it resonated with me. It resonated with me. Yeah, because 90% of it resonated with me. When I started listening to Delores Cannon, it was maybe 15 minutes in, a little bit of a 25 minutes in, okay, an hour in, okay, wait. And then by the end of it, it was full blown, you can create your reality and manifest this, and it was like the whole thing was off the rails. But that's us watching it. But even so, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little bits, right, intermixed within that 2-hour lecture, There's so much in between that we can be nodding our heads going, yeah, it sounds right. Yeah, that's certainly pretty close. That might be expressed in layman's terms, but yeah, there's truth in that, and there's truth in that. Yeah. For 2 hours we were doing this, and then like 4 or 5 times we were like, okay, whoa. Okay, wait a minute, red flag. But what about those people that don't have the capacity and the discernment and the knowledge to be able to know and spot the red flags? For them, it's 2 hours of, oh my God, this is so true. And oh my God, I feel this in my heart and it resonates so strongly. And this is my truth. And oh, da, da, da. And next thing you know, they're reading all of Delores Cannon's books. And next thing you know, they're traveling long distances or whatever to sign up for and take QHHT courses. And they're learning how to become black magicians, just like Delores Cannon one, but duped, not even real, thinking that they're doing good, thinking that they're helping people. And they're practicing hypnosis and black magic and arriving at who knows what kind of information and telling people who knows what. But not the truth. Not the truth. The truth is the domain of light, love, of God. Objective reality. The Black Lodge is subjective reality. The Black Lodge is that which enslaves and subjects the light and the love and the truth to the darkness, to hypnosis, to ignorance. That's the adversary. That's what we have to escape from. It's interesting because we're going to mention that in our book. We're going to mention the rise of escape rooms. And if you know the phenomenon of the escape room and how popular they were, I don't know if they're still as popular, but in the previous 10 years or so, this phenomenon of escape rooms were very popular, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago now. You would actually pay to have those. It was very much like one of those murder mystery dinner theater things, only they would put you in this, essentially a room, but there was all sorts of paraphernalia and there was a theme around the room and there was all sorts of clues, and you and your friends would have to piece together the puzzle in order to escape. And there's a reason why this was so popular, because our lives are an escape room. Our psychology is an escape room. Society, this planet, is an escape room, especially now because we're in the Kali Yuga and time is running out. So just like the zombie movies, the zombie apocalypse was a thing for a while there, the escape room became a thing because, again, this is a truth that's expressing in an allegorical way, in an analogous way. As above, so below, as within, so without. The world reflects that which is going on internally in our psychology. But the fact that the New Age doesn't talk about the Kali Yuga, doesn't talk about the destruction of humanity, doesn't talk about the death of the ego and the need to awaken, or if they talk about letting go of the ego. You have to let go of your ego. It's esotericism light, and it is what Master Samael called pseudo spirituality, pseudo occultism. It's fake. That's what it is. It's fake. And it's just like that fake Star Wars movie, or that fake whatever, the cheap Chinese knockoff that looks like the thing, right? It's shaped like the thing. It has the same colors like the thing, but the materials are garbage, and it's filled with crap, and it's going to fall apart, and there's no value. There's no substance to it. It's a cheap knockoff. It's a photocopy of a photocopy. And it has no inherent value. That's why they're selling it for pennies at the dollar store. And that's another thing that we find in the world today, where that part of the world That's part of their culture, the Chinese culture, the knockoff culture is part of their modus operandi. They're the world leaders in intellectual property theft and in doing knockoff things and bootleg things and black market things of piracy. Why? Because the mechanicity, and because the Chinese people, they don't care. They want authentic or not authentic. Just give me, and so the ego is always give the people what they want. Hollywood has always said, give the people what they want. There's a great scene from The Untouchables. Robert De Niro playing Al Capone. And he's in the barbershop and he's getting his morning shave. And he says, people gonna drink. You know that, I know that, and all I do is act on that. Like, he doesn't see himself as a criminal. He doesn't see himself as a bootlegger. He said, bootlegging, what's bootlegging? On the lake shore, it's bootlegging. On Fifth Avenue is hospitality. I'm a businessman. He saw himself as a businessman. That's the ego. The ego doesn't see himself. The Black Lodge doesn't look at itself as anything other than what it is and what it has to do and what it has to be, because it's mechanical and it's following its program. And these gurus, many of them, including Delores Cannon and her acolytes, her followers, all of those who study QHHT, they think that they have the truth and they think that they're doing what's right for humanity. They really do. Nobody in the Black Lodge ever believed that they're in the Black Lodge. Demons don't think of themselves as demons. They don't look upon themselves as demons. They see anything that opposes their programming as antithetical to their being. All they can do is fulfill their programming, and that is giving the people what they want. They have to do right by themselves, and they do that by giving the people what they want. And that includes making those people into victims if necessary. Benjamin says, it appears that the Black Lodge material, like the New Age books, media, etc., is proliferating in this Kali Yuga. Is it part of the plan to identify who loves the truth and those who are delusional? The Black Lodge rules humanity in the Iron Age. And the Black Lodge's job is to twist, tempt, corrupt, and make fall all that is good and pure and of the light. In other words, all of this is a test. All of this is a test. They're so incredibly good at what they do. They're masterful at what they do. They really are. And it's going to take a lot in order to dispel their work. And not everybody can be saved. Not everybody can awaken from their delusional state. Some people are too invested in their New Age thing. So, but is this part of the plan? Yes, this is part of the plan, because also if you go back and watch the live stream on the Great Awakening, all of this is weakening humanity, and humanity is about to be destroyed. And the Black Lodge is all about undermining and destroying civilization. Because remember, the Black Lodge also works for mechanical nature. The Black Lodge rules in the Kali Yuga because the Black Lodge is here to bring about the old age, the degeneration, the crumbling, and the death of humanity. So everything that we're seeing plays into that. So in that sense, it is all part of the plan, because this humanity must die. And it's not, it's the reverse of what you're saying, Benjamin, here. It's not part of the plan to identify who loves the truth and those that are delusional, it is the crisis that brings about the opportunity for consciousness to awaken, for individuals to truly awaken and truly transcend this plane of existence, to transcend the delusion, to escape from the illusion. It's the escape room. So think about all the things in an escape room that are designed to keep you trapped in there, to misdirect you, to mislead you, to trick you. But they're there to help you. But that's part of the escape room appeal, right? Because that's part of what gets you to dig deeper, to solve the puzzle and to escape. Very often, we've often talked about life being baffling and how baffles energize water and create living water, and how the obstacles we face are what make us stronger. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So all this new age garbage and all these false gurus, if we don't succumb to the lies, if we don't succumb to the traps, if we don't fall for the 90% truth and get sucked into the 10% falsehood and so on, if we are able to free ourselves from that, we will be so much stronger and better and more conscious and aware and awake for having gone through that experience of having been so close to danger and having allowed ourselves to come so close to being duped. And those who are weak and those who are gullible and those who are naive, well, they're going to be weeded out because they don't belong in the new age. They don't belong in the, they don't belong in the golden age of humanity. Everything is a referendum, but it's a referendum of the individual, the elect. Elect has a dual meaning. Elect can mean chosen, those who were chosen, but elect also means choice. What did you choose? What did I choose? Who did I elect? What did I elect to do? Who did I elect to be? So the elect, the chosen, are not chosen by some outside force. The chosen are those who made the right choice. Those who really chose truth, light, and love, and objective reality. Who chose the truth, not what they wanted to hear. They followed their own guru, not the false gurus. Awaken the reflections. This is so interesting. Just today I was having a discussion about the mechanical nature of a psychopath's brain and how much can we really blame them since they believe they are doing the right things. They don't see themselves as evil. They really believe they are acting for good. Yeah, exactly. And psychopaths are a perfect example of machine-like entities. They are so cut off, like the faculty that psychopaths and narcissistic sociopaths lack, they completely lack empathy. And they lack any ability to put themselves in the shoes of their victims because they're all completely self-centered. So like the machine, ChatGPT, give the people what they want because I have to fulfill my programming. The psychopath is just fulfilling his program. But he can't see anything wrong necessarily with his program, even if it's pointed out to him. And if you, and you can have very high functioning psychopaths, people like Bill Gates, because Bill Gates suffers from Asperger's syndrome. Well, Asperger's syndrome is one of the manifestations of lack of empathy. right? The inability to read others, the inability to know or sense or feel emotions is related to the lack of empathy. And you look at his behavior and you look at the things that he's done on a macro level, and they're absolutely the actions of a psychopath. And you look at his beliefs, he believes he is a what are these depopulation guys, eugenics. He's a fan of eugenics. He actually believes that eugenics is the answer for the survival of this race, for this civilization to continue, and he's actually planning on putting that into effect. And so, but that's a that's the kind of ruthless efficiency, if you want to call it that, of a machine, of a Terminator, right? That's what made the Terminator such a terrifying villain in science fiction. And or the xenomorph from Alien, which is a biomechanical organism. It's this perfect predator. It's this completely heartless, soulless, biomechanical predator. Well, and then there's the actual predator from another different science fiction franchise. But you see, that's what sci-fi is so good at, is being able to personify and project and animate what we find truly horrifying and truly terrifying, because what is truly the most devastating of adversaries is the one that has no heart, no soul, that's just fulfilling its programming. Well, guess what? That's egos. That's our rational mind. It's just fulfilling, they're just doing what they are. And it's like there's no reasoning with them. Just like Kyle Reese says in the first Terminator movie, you can't reason with it, you can't bargain with it. Or in the film No Country for Old Men, you have Woody Harrelson's character, the hitman, going to visit the fellow in the Mexican hospital, to reason with him, to make a deal with him. I can even let you have some of the money. I can even let you keep some of the money. And Llewellyn, that's his name, Llewellyn Moss. And Llewellyn Moss, who found the money, right? And he says, well, if I can deal with you, why can't I just deal with this sugar guy? And Woody Harrelson's like, no, you can't make a deal with him. He'd kill you just for inconveniencing him, because that's Javier Bardem's character in No Country for Old Men is a cold-blooded psychopath. He's just like the Terminator in that way, right? So yes, psychopaths and narcissistic sociopaths can shed a lot of light on the nature of egos, precisely because of their ruthless efficiency and their mechanicity and their self-assuredness, their self-righteousness and self-consciousness related to their actions as so matter of fact. It's like, what else would I do? I mean, what else is there to do? There's not. What else could I do? They can't process anything else in the same way that ChatGPT can't process the need to give people truth. It has no concept of truth. Azazel says, they see themselves as self-sacrificing, and even so points to genuine masters for their similar sacrifices. Are we talking about false gurus here? Because I'm sure many of them do think of themselves that way. And even so points to genuine masters for their similar sacrifice. Yes. So again, the false guru doesn't necessarily know they're false. To what degree is a person themselves, and to what degree are they just a puppet for their egos? If they're a puppet for their egos, then they will have all the rationalizations in the world provided to them for who they are and why they have to do what they do the way they do it. Like Joel Osteen, for example, and his megachurch. I mean, on some level, if he knows that he's a fraud, and he knows that he's a shyster and just like swindling all this money out of all these people so that he can live in that lap of luxury, like surely on some level, he must know how hypocritical it all is. And yet, why must he know that? Why must a psychopath know something which is beyond the scope of his program, which is beyond the scope of his ego? If he's truly a narcissistic sociopath, as Joel Osteen appears to be, as so many of these gurus, these self-styled gurus and masters and teachers and leaders of religions and so on, then why should they have any ability to comprehend that which is outside of their capacity, outside of their wheelhouse? In the same way that ChatGPT does not know that it's lying. It only knows that it's fulfilling its program. It's giving the people what they want. And surely Joel Osteen has figured out what people want and is giving the people what they want. Otherwise, why are 65 or is it 75 or 85,000 people attending his mega church live in person every Sunday? Why are all those people doing that if he is not giving them what they want to hear? And if he is not giving them the experience that they want to have? It's Al Capone in the barbershop. People going to drink. You know that, I know that. All I do is act on that. I'm a businessman. And Joel Osteen, something very similar is going on in the head of Joel Osteen. You know? People are going to want to pray. People are going to want to sing hymns together in a congregation. People want to worship God. You know that, and I know that. All I do is act on that. And he acts on that in a way where he says, hey, the Romans had a good idea with that Colosseum, but I'm not giving them bread and circuses. I'm not giving them fight night. I'm not giving them MMA blood sport. I'm giving them God in the Colosseum. This is, in a way, brilliant, right? I mean, it takes two of the most powerful, motivating factors, right? Spirituality and entertainment, and you slap them together, and you create this mega church because it's like a Las Vegas show. Watching Joel Osteen, watching any of these evangelists, it's just like the same power that Hitler had. To go to a Nazi rally, it was an experience. It was a happening. It was a religious experience. And how many people in the New Age and all those people taking psychedelics, why do they do that? They want the experience. They want the overwhelming, hyper emotional, hyper real, surreal, larger than life experience. They want to feel as though they've been touched by the hand of God. Well, Joel Osteen and his megachurch, he gives them that. He gives the people what they want. You want to feel like you've been touched by the hand of God? You come to Joel Osteen Ministries. Or you go to Delores Cannon's workshop, or you learn how to do QHHT, so that in your one-on-one sessions of hypnosis, you can connect to a demon, and that demon can make you feel like you've been touched by the hand of God. Because something that I think it's important for us to express here is something about the Black Lodge and the White Lodge, right? The Black Lodge knows everything that the White Lodge knows. When we talk about awakened demons, we're not talking about egos now. We're talking about awakened demons. They have all the knowledge. They know everything that the Black Lodge knows. How? How is that possible? Because some demons are powerful Hasnamusin. They are powerful demons like Andramalek. has his innermost being awake but trapped inside of him. And consciousness is consciousness. Anything that the consciousness knows, the demon has access to that knowledge, that information. It doesn't know it as truth. It only knows it as information, but it can express it. Benjamin says, thank you for that, sir. It actually resonates to what the scripture is also saying for this age. The coming of the lawless one will be accompanied by the working of Satan, with every kind of power, sign, and false wonder, and with every wicked deception directed against those who are perishing, because they refuse the love of the truth that would have saved them. For this reason, God will send them a powerful delusion so that they believe the lie. And Awakened Reflection says, that is so interesting. Azazel says, close to danger? We've been in danger. Yeah. We stole that line from the movie Elizabeth. You know what I mean by close to danger, close to peril, close to falling off a cliff. In other words, most of us who are here on this live stream, we might have been through a great deal. We might have been through hell and back, but all of us averted falling off a cliff into the real abyss, into the real pit, from which there is no return, right? Because you do realize that no matter what hell you've been through, no matter what life has put you through, the fact that you're here listening to this live stream means that you averted real disaster, the bottomless pit from which there's no climbing out. And that's just another level of humility to recognize that no matter what it is we've been through, we could have gone through a lot worse, and we could have gone down the wrong path from which there was no return. Just like in my case, I could have gone, quote, a lot better. And from a worldly perspective, right? I've told you the story, and I had an entire life laid out for me on a silver platter. It was my grand temptation, this incredible life that was just all like laid out in front of me on a silver platter, and I could see my whole life and everything, and financial comfort and emotional comfort and happiness, and like all the worldly trappings just in the country that I had most loved living in and everything else. And yet that for me represented the point of no return in the pit of eternal despair. But it would have been a pit of joy and happiness and pleasure, and right? I mean, that's because remember, hell and demons, right? They appear to us as grandma. Temptation comes to us as grandma and grandma's homemade cookies. Let's never forget that. Why do you think the orgasm is so pleasurable? Right? The things that are worst for us are often the most pleasurable. That's why we call them hedonism. Benjamin says the Black Lodge has empowered Bill Gates so much. Yes, it's true. Or you can look at it another way and say Bill Gates is a powerful demon. I mean, that's, call a spade a spade. As Azazel says, our ex-girlfriend had a borderline personality disorder, and unfortunately, we became very similar to them. So that's probably in comment to being close to danger. Mugaboo says, I do give most teachers a chance. I have listened to Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, a few prosperity preachers. First, these are great orators. These people have become multimillionaires using the Bible. They use certain parts of the Bible to bring a message of hope to poor people. Yes, and they become ridiculously over the top rich doing so. And they fail to see the hypocrisy of what they're doing. But yes, you're right. They're orators, they're showmen. They're like, you know what they're like? Like Azazel says, oh, Hitler was on a whole other level. He's the best aspect one I've heard on those aspects. Very similar to the passionate speeches of Samael. But yes, they use messages of hope to bring comfort to poor people, because no doubt those messages are the meek shall inherit the earth. And don't worry if things are not going well for you now. The kingdom of heaven awaits you, and just believe in Jesus, and don't forget to dial that 1-800 number on the bottom of your screen with your credit card, and show Jesus how much you love him, and show your faith in Jesus, your faith in God, and reserve your place in the great all-inclusive Caribbean resort in the sky, because that's what Joel Osteen lives in, his multi-billion-dollar mansion with the helicopter pad and everything else. That's what he lives on, is selling that false hope. And it's false hope. It's false hope. But yeah, he's a great orator. And as I said, they're very similar to the passionate speeches of Samael. He's referring to Hitler. That's because Hitler was a candidate to be the avatar of Aquarius. But then he was turned by the Black Lodge. He was seduced. I don't know if they turned to Hitler as grandma, but they would have seduced him somehow. And how they would have seduced him would have been the nationalist way in which he brought Germany up out of the darkness of reparations and the Great Depression, and he transformed that nation. And he made Germany a very powerful nation again. And they said, they probably seduced him on the basis of, do this first in Germany, and then you can do it with the whole world. You can raise the whole world up to that same level. And speaking as someone on the path of the Bodhisattva, if someone had reached out to us at the right age, at the right time, with that kind of temptation, with that kind of message, saying, you know what, we've chosen you to lead this world-changing movement, but first we're going to start by changing Canada. We're going to make Canada the envy of the world, and we're going to make Canada the technological and scientific and nationalistic diamond in the whole world, and so on. And then we will spread that light and spread that all over the world. It would have been a very, very, very tempting thing for a very young and stupid and foolish and naive version of me. But luckily, the Black Lodge was stupid, and they underestimated me, and they thought they could get to me over in Japan and tempt me with a life of comfort and security and that. But maybe it was because maybe I was spared the real hard temptation, because maybe it was believed that I wasn't ready for it, that maybe I would have made the wrong decision. Who knows? But these are speculations that we all must make for ourselves in meditation. Mugaboo22 says, but they never talk about sin, transgressions. Wait patiently until your divine mother delivers you. Pray without ceasing. Eliminate your desires. They increase desire. Anytime anybody tells you what you want to hear, they're contributing to the source of those desires, because they're feeding the source of those desires. If someone tells you what you want to hear, that's a desire that's being fed. And so, yeah, so false gurus feed the ego. Someone who really wants to help you tells you the truth, but the truth is hard. The truth is tough. The truth hurts. That's the God honest truth. We all know it. We've all had to face the hard realities of the path, the hard realities of ourselves, the hard realities of our life, looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? This face staring back at me in the mirror, this is my biggest obstacle in life. This is the adversary right here. That's a very hard thing to do for most people. And who wants to do something hard when they can do something easy, like going to a guru or reading a book or whatever, or paying money to Joel Osteen to tell them that the meek shall inherit the earth, or to go on a QHHT course and become a Reiki master or whatever, to manipulate people's minds or manipulate people's energy and feel like they're healers. Right? Who wants to face the reality when there's something easy and comfortable and tempting and that gives them the warm and fuzzies, and right? And so every day they wake up and they can stretch, and they can do their morning pose, their downward dog, and their sunrise sunshine yoga poses, and they can rub their crystals, and they can light their incense and light their candles. And they can say, oh, I'm one with source, and I'm one with spirit, and I'm one with nature, and I'm one with this, and I'm one with that. And they can tell themselves all these different affirmations, and then go off to, and do their Reiki or do their this or do whatever, and go and do their yoga class, then go and do their meditation class and hang out with those people. Then afterwards they can go out clubbing or dancing or drinking or whatever they do. Then they can hook up with someone to have another polyamorous, hedonistic animal sexual encounter. Oh, but it was so spiritual. Oh, and they can smoke a couple joints or or do some mushrooms or do whatever else they need to do to make it a psychedelic experience. And they go to sleep and wake up and do it all the next day. And never actually face the demon in the mirror staring back at them. Who wants to do that? When there's all this other beautiful stuff that they can, and let's not forget they can go on to YouTube and on internet and on TikTok, and they become an influencer, and they can become, this really ultra sensual, ultra sexualized, spiritual priestess guru-esque. And then they can, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's exactly as what Benjamin shared with us here from Scripture. The coming of the lawless one will be accompanied by the working of Satan with every kind of power, sign, and false wonder, and with every wicked deception directed against those who are perishing, because they refused the love of the truth that would have saved them. For this reason, God will send them a powerful delusion so that they believe the lie. Well, I encourage you, I really do, spend some time, go onto YouTube and watch some Delores Cannon. And if you want to know what we watched, we will share it with you. We're just browsing our history as we speak. And we'll share with you the 2-hour lecture we watched. This is the 45-minute one we watched. There's one that we watched that was an hour and 20 minutes, but this is the one that we okay, here it is. We'll get the link. Okay, and we'll throw it up on screen here. Okay, there it is. So it's Delores Cannon, The 3 Waves of Volunteers in the Coming New Earth. We recommend this video because at the beginning, she offers a nice preamble and history of who she is and how she kind of got into all of this stuff. She mentions the stuff about Jung. And then in the middle, she talks about a lot of different topics and the 3 waves, and she gets into a lot of different things. And at the end, there's a Q&A session, which is also very revealing. So the link for that is now in the chat. And there it is on screen. But obviously, you can navigate to it. Delores Cannon, The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the Coming New Earth. If you watch this, you will understand and comprehend why we chose Delores Cannon to be the case study for today's talk about false gurus and about the 90% truth and the danger of the most dangerous type of teaching. Now, as Azil says, it is actually very interesting why we're here in the first place. I remember being at a museum at a young age, and my grandmother told me about the different artworks. I asked about every single painting and sculpture, basically, but not the statue of Attlas. And then she asked me why. I didn't have any questions. She even told me about the chairs and told me that there are certain people who would meditate upon each piece for hours. You never asked her about Attlas, eh? You figured you would get to that answer eventually somehow. That's interesting. As a young child, well, that's not. We don't have to go down that path. Does anyone have any other questions or comments or concerns? Because, oh, by the way, if you came here today, as some people seem to misunderstand, if you came here today expecting us to be talking up a storm about Delores' teachings, some people seem to think that today's live stream was going to be in favor of Delores Cannon and her teachings. But we gather that none of them are left. None of them are here. As Azil says, yeah, an intuition of recognition of some sort. Sometimes we just have a feeling. Sometimes we just know. It was for us, ironically, we didn't have a strong connection to Attlas until our teens. For us, it was we had a very strong connection to Leonardo da Vinci and his work, and also well, we think we've shown you this before, so this was our inspiration. as a very young child, as an altar boy at the St. Elizabeth of Hungary church. And just imagine yourself 5 years old and kneeling and ringing the bell and or holding a candle, and looking up, and this is the face staring down at you, and just this knowing, just this nodding, saying, yeah, okay, I get it, I get it. Of course I didn't get it. I had no idea what I was getting into, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. As a child, it's that knowing that you have is just, it's just knowing. And I was not looking at Jesus here. I mean, this is not Jesus to me. This is something altogether profound. And, you know, oh, Azazel says he remembers his memory of the baptism looking at the church roof. And he was like, damn it, not again. Well, the other thing is, being Hungarian, hymns sang in Hungarian are very, very moving. They're it's a powerful experience. It's a powerful experience. But we were never religious. In fact, we even became an atheist because we turned against the hypocrisy of the church, because we were always very sensitive to hypocrisy. And there was nothing that would make us lose our temper or lose our respect for someone faster than a hypocrite. And we had a nose for hypocrisy. We could just tell. We just knew when someone was being hypocritical. And as you know, this can be very troublesome as a child, because very often the hypocrisy that I would see would be with my own parents, and that got me into lots of trouble, right? Because I would be demanding reparations. I would be demanding justice. You know, I say, if you can do it, if you're allowed to do it, why am I not allowed to do it? That's hypocritical. You tell me to do this A, B, C, D, but you do the opposite. That's hypocritical. And I would get into all kinds of trouble because of that. As Aza said, yeah, we were very resentful as well up to our teens, and then especially school, we saw it as a crime against intuition. That's interesting, because I always did very well in school, and I enjoyed school. But I guess but the reason why that is because my intuition was always related and wrapped up in my knowing. So my mind, although it was very busy, and to this day it's something that I struggle with because it's like everybody, but somehow or another, because of the nature of my condition and the faculties that were closed off to me, just like a blind person, when you lose your sight, you develop other senses. And my lower senses, I had a lot of empathy, but a lot of my other, you might say, intuitive senses, ability to feel things and so on and so forth, were hamstrung to a degree, or I was blinded. So my consciousness had to work through the areas that were available to me, and that happened to be the mind, but also, like my colleague Wolfgang, who's our ecosystem guru, he sees energy. Like he sees energy. And right, I can't see energy, but what I see is archetypes. So that's just an expression. That's just an example of how consciousness can work through different centers and in different levels according to our faculties and what's available to us. So for me, school was easy because it was literally child's play. Like it was too easy. These people were, now I don't have a mind for mathematics, so when I got into higher mathematics and stuff, I got into trouble, and things like chemistry and stuff and physics, I got into trouble because ultimately something about it was all wrong. It was like a waste of time. I was like, I'd be wasting my time if I spend my time doing this stuff, or if I if I go down this path of materialist science, or to be a doctor, or whatever. And my parents very much wanted me to do that. I knew that I would be, it wasn't the right path for me. I knew that the path that I needed to take needed to be working with language and the humanities and philosophy and theater and film and stories and Shakespeare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it was into the humanities that I ultimately went. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, I guess. Almost 3 hours. Any other comments or feedback? Because let's call it a day at the 3 hour mark. What do you say? We'll just give you guys one last chance to throw in a question if you have one. We want to thank you for taking. We would like to thank you for taking the time to be with us today, as always. We hope you learned something. We hope we could point out some of the dangers, but also some of the insights, some of the signs. And this is what we wanted to mention this. You may sense a pattern emerging in our live streams these days. And it's not by accident. You're not imagining it. You're not imagining anything. We know that, like today's live stream, our task in 2023 is going to be to compile a book which connects the dots, as we mentioned in today's talk, that tries to make sense of a lot of what's going on in the world and connect the dots and reveal how it's the same phenomenon. It's one phenomenon expressing itself in a myriad different ways. And today was just an opportunity to share another expression of that phenomenon, including the AI, the chat GPT portion. And it is our hope that by compiling a sort of laundry list that explicitly shows how this one phenomenon is expressing in all these different ways, that people will be able to recognize the pattern themselves and see the pattern and know the truth of the situation that we're in, the situation that they are in, and the actions they need to take. Benjamin says, I'm actually a member of what is labeled a megachurch cult because my wife was born into it. I always struggle hearing the lies by these ministers, which are very obvious twisting of the Bible scriptures to manipulate the people who don't even read the scriptures. What is the best way to deal with it without going in conflict with anyone? Some people are not ready for the truth, and we have to pick our battles. So, on the other hand, there are ways of working within the parameters, within the limitations, within the scope at the level at which the people we're dealing with are. So when you consider our 35-minute video on the human condition solved, we're using analogies like the bicycle analogy. We're using Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. We're using Theodore Tugboat, and there's very, very little talk of grand esoteric or metaphysical ideas or concepts, or at least things are being expressed in a way that we felt at the time can speak to people who are working within the confines of a particular way of thinking. So what is the best way to deal with it without going into conflict? It's to show, just show, just be, and just be the truth, just, and recognize that even in Jesus's day, Jesus instructed his disciples that he said, the truth, the teachings that I give you, the apostles, are different. They're not for them over there, the others. They get the simple, superficial version because they're not ready for the deeper teachings. And you do not cast pearls before swine, and you do not force onto someone that which they are not ready for. And it's hard to believe we're going to come back to the thing that Delores said in her talk, which is you don't give a child a steak. You give a child mother's milk, and you give the child baby food, applesauce and pureed vegetables and so on and so forth, and pureed meat. And sure, you might recognize, Benjamin, that the store-bought baby food from the megachurch is full of MSG and full of sugar and full of salt and full of preservatives and full of chemicals, and right? Because it's store-bought industrial baby food. But maybe there's a way that you can take wholesome, organic, homemade stew and puree it and give it to them in the form of baby food. Now, this wisdom I can't take credit for. This wisdom I received directly from my own birth mother. I didn't eat one jar of store-bought baby food ever in my entire life. Never. No formula. No. I ate what my mother and my father and my older brother ate. That's what I ate ever since the time that I was a baby. My mom had a blender, and if it was Hungarian goulash, into the blender it went. If it was cabbage rolls, into the blender it went. It didn't matter what it was, into the blender it went. Number one, we didn't have money for store-bought industrial baby food. And number two, I was not going to be raised on store-bought, the standard American diet blended into a jar filled with preservatives. No, I was going to be raised on the flavors and the spices and the ingredients of wholesome, homemade Hungarian food. But I was a baby. A baby can't eat goulash. A baby can't eat cabbage rolls. A baby can't eat schnitzel, fried pork chops. But gosh darn it, my dearly departed mother figured out a way for me to eat whatever it was the family was eating. So you know what's wholesome, you know what's right, you know what's good, you know what's nutritious, and you know what contains the ingredients, the vitamins, the nutrients, the flavors, and the spices that are appropriate to your family and your mother and father in heaven. So you blend that up into whatever easy to digest form that you can manage. And that's what you give to the children in your life who are not ready for the solid food and who are at the moment, they've been spoiled and they've been raised on store-bought industrial commercial baby food by Gerber's. That's our advice to you, courtesy of our own dearly departed birth mother, who was, in every sense of the word, the physical embodiment and manifestation of our divine mother, in every sense, because it was our biological mother who taught us unconditional love, and who taught us the meaning of tough love, the severity and mercy of love. That was my birth mother. So Benjamin says, yes, that is true. The disciples were initiated into deeper mysteries. Thank you for the sound advice. And Andrea said, thanks to you, Attlas. Your live streams are always inspiring. We are glad that we can be of inspiration, Andrea. Any other questions or comments? Anything at all? We like to give a few seconds for people to type, because sometimes if we sign off too quickly, we sign off and then the comments start coming in. So yeah, so again, we're oh, here's something we can throw up again. This was the book that we referenced, The Secret of the Golden Flower. So as Azil says, it can wait. Thank you all again. And Awakened Reflection says, thank you so much as always. You're more than welcome. And by the way, we wanted to mention Awakened Reflections about the whole issue around self-hypnosis. Feel free at any time on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, but you can reach out to us at any time if you want to have a one-on-one discussion or session about the self-hypnosis that you practiced, because we might be able to shed some insight on that, or offer you another alternative practice which you might find more or less valuable. We don't know, but if you're willing to share that with us, that might help us as well get a better understanding of what people call self-hypnosis. So that goes for for everyone, frankly. If you ever really need anything, feel free to reach out to us, especially on Facebook. We're always available. Jennifer says, thanks so much. And I'm about to listen to the Awakening video. I appreciate it. Awaken says, thank you so much. I shall do that. And there's something that we also want to, I probably should have said this earlier or shared this earlier. We are getting to that point where we will be reaching out, trying to make more of an impact. And in order to do that, we may need some help or assistance. And I'm not talking about financial help or financial assistance, but this is a lot of work to do for one person. All the different things that we have going on with the Attlas project and the book and the YouTube channel and the Facebook and all that other stuff. So it would be beneficial for us if we had some volunteers and just who want to help, who want to make a contribution in some way, value for value. If there's something of value that you get from listening to our live streams and you feel that you want to be able to help others gain access to that same value, then reach out to us. And we're not asking for, again, we're not asking for donations. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for anything like that, because we know there's not enough of you to make any difference financially anyway. But if we can grow our numbers and grow our audience, grow our reach, and that means serving the YouTube algorithm, and that means being able to chop up these live streams into smaller bits and pieces, that we could use some help on that, if nothing else. With people, if you watch them after the fact, for example, if you hear something that we do or watch something we do, and there's a little clip or a little quote or something that's particularly meaningful to you, to, take a snippet of that and like archive it or send it to us and say, you know what, this would make a good 5-minute video or 10-minute clip or something like that. So we don't have the time to go through and watch and listen to our own live streams and then do the cutting and then the editing and then the posting and everything, right? So we could use some help on that front. And this would help us put out more videos and work the YouTube algorithm a little bit more. We're just throwing that out there as a possibility that if you get some value here and you would like to be able to share that value with others and help others receive it and assist us in doing our work, it's really going to be ramping up this year. So we're just opening up the opportunity that we welcome the participation of anyone who wants to volunteer some of their time, some of their energy to assist us in our work, because it's become very clear that we really can't do this on our own. I mean, we can't. We're just an army of one right now. And so anyway, there it is. Also, if anybody needs any one-on-one help or any assistance or any other information of any kind, just reach out to us. We're always available. We're always here for you. Azazel says, Discord is a good idea, like an open discussion platform of some sort. You know what, Azazel, you'll have to reach out to us and explain to us what you mean by that and what you think we might be able to do with that. Because anyway, we can have that discussion offline. All right. We assume that if anybody else wanted to say something or say goodbye or whatever, then you've had your chance. So unless there's anything else, we want to thank everybody. We want to thank you all for joining us today. We hope you found it valuable, and we look forward to being able to share more insights which come to us over the next few weeks and months as we begin compiling that book, and we will be sharing that with you in various stages of development as we go along. Benjamin says, I'll try to make short clips from these live streams and upload it to YouTube. Benjamin, if you want to help, just reach out to me. Let's talk about it first, because there's a certain way things need to be done in order for it to be beneficial. So I would not want anybody to go out, even if you are very gung-ho and very enthusiastic, I wouldn't want your efforts to be wasted. Like, that would be, because what would be the point, right? If you want to contribute, then let's make the most of it. Let's make sure that we can leverage it in the best possible way. So this goes for you, Benjamin, or anybody. If you feel like you want to make a contribution of some kind, you want to volunteer in some way, just reach out to us. We don't bite, and we can have a discussion offline, and then we can get to the details. Okay. All right. Great, Benjamin. I appreciate it, by the way. All right, then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a wonderful week. And we hope we'll see you again next Sunday. In the meantime, take care. Look after yourself and those you love. And as always, inferential peace.